Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, the examiners, and the Honorable, my advisor, Miss Renee Marolina, and to all my beloved friends that is attending my proposal seminar, thank you so much. Let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Rido Wahidi, and in this opportunity, I would like to present my proposal with the title "An Investigations of Language Learning Strategies Used by EFL Students in Learning English at SMI2 Solo." In this presentation, there are three chapters that I explained. The first one is chapter one, introduction, and then the chapter two, review of literature, and then lastly, followed by chapter three, research methods. All right, let's start with the chapter one, introduction. In the background of the research, there are 3 points that is already stated here. The first one is the importance of English language. Learning English is a must for the students. It can be seen in Indonesia. Even the government already said and established that English language is the first foreign language that is should be learned by the students at formal education, starting from the grade school, primary school, until the university. Also, it is cited from the Commendation 2024 that the student, especially at senior high school, should at least take 24 weeks of study to learn English. And hopefully, after they finish the school, they are ideally have the actual fundamental ability of English language to prepare their future, as knowing English should have a lot of benefits for them, like maybe for the jobs opportunity, vacations, maybe interacting with the others like social, or maybe if they want to continue their study overseas. And for the point number two, it is about obstacles in learning language. Some students still find it is difficult to learn English. They find a huge wall and a large barrier when they are trying to learn English in school. It is make the students to have an effective and ineffective language learning process. And of course, it is not only about the external factor, but also internal factor. Or the external factor may be about the environment in the class, like maybe they got confused during the learning process because of the other student talking behind the class. And for the internal factor, one of them is because of the lack of strategy that the students know, so that the researcher here want to let the students know about language learning strategy so that they are expected to have a better learning process, learning activity. And then point number three is about the use of language learning strategy. The language learning strategy, of course, is so much beneficial for the students, but still, some students out there don't know about language learning strategy. So, even though there are some students that unconsciously apply the language learning strategy, they apply the strategies that is convenient with them. So, the researcher here or want to know that even the researcher here want to let the students know about the language learning strategy as well, so that they are expected and hopefully can get the maximum result if they are study with the best strategies that they want to know, that they want to learn. And then we move to the formulation of the research. The researcher has formulated the formulation, that is, what is the language learning strategy used uh, by the FL students and the effect of the strategy towards their ability in learning English. And for the purpose of the research, it is to find out the most frequent strategy used by DFL students and to find out the impact of learning strategy toward their ability. And then we move to the next chapter, chapter 2, about the review of literature. There are learning strategy and also learning language learning strategy. The first one will split. The first one is about learning strategy. There are 2 points stated here. The first is the definition of learning strategy. Based on O'Malley and Chamot, 1990, learning strategy is the spatial way, behavior, or thought that is done by the student in helping them for a better understanding during the learning process. And language strategy can be simply defined as a method that is employed by the students to learn, to comprehend the material or content provided, or to maintain and recall information. And then the second point is about the importance of learning strategy. In this modern era of education, the students are expected to have their own autonomy and initiative to learn and to comprehend the content provided in the class. That's why that's why if the students apply the language learning strategy, of course, it will provide them with an abundant amount of benefits. For example, if they want to focus, for example, they can do the strategies that may be related to the focus of the students while learning, while studying. And the other example is like if they want to if they find a difficult part, if they find if they find a difficult part while studying, they can apply a grouping strategies like maintaining and classifying informations, and or maybe to cut some information into smaller pieces and then understand them, and then try to understand them that have been cut into smaller pieces. It is much easier rather than to understand it in the whole information. And then about the language learning strategy, there are 2 points as well stated here. The first one is the definition of language learning strategy. It is mentioned by the first researcher who take this field into the research. She is Rubin, 1975. She mentioned in her paper that language learning strategy is the vehicles or tools that students may employ to help them to understand, to help them to understand and to acquire the language learning, to acquire the knowledge. And then we move to the next one, the next point. It is about the classifications of the language learning strategy. There are two experts that have classified language learning strategies. The first one's from Rebecca Oxford, 1990, and also O'Malley, 1990. According to Oxford 1990, there are, according to Oxford 1990, she classified the strategies into 2 categories. The first categories is in direct strategies, and the another categories is indirect categories. In the direct categories, there are 3 strategies. The first one is cognitive strategies. Cognitive strategies is for comprehending and producing the language. And then the second one is compensation for ignoring uh, the knowledge gap while using language. And the number 3 is memory for remembering the information and then also for recalling the informations. And for the next categories, that is indirect categories, there are 3 strategies as well. The first one is metacognitive strategies. It is for coordinating the process in learning activity, in learning language. For example, by creating a plan or preparing the students, creating a plan or preparing themselves for the upcoming task. And the second one is effective strategies for managing the emotion while studying. And the number 3 is social, for interacting and communicating or to learning with others. And then the second classification is from O'Malley 1990. O'Malley et al. Provides deeper productive themes. It is different from Oxford classifications. O'Malley et al. Only state three strategies. They are metacognitive, cognitive, and also social strategies. And in the metacognitive strategies, there are seven processes or strategies in it. The first one is planning. Planning is for creating a plan for the upcoming task. And the second one is directed attention for it is only focusing on the learning task and ignoring all of the things that may disturb the learning process. Number three is the attention of selective. It is for focusing only for a specific detail that may help the students, that may help the learning process. And number four is self-monitoring. That is by checking one's understanding in the language, about the language. And for the number five is self-management. It is for controlling the understanding of one's own language. And number six is identifications. That is directly looking for the problem that hinders uh, the learning activity. Number seven is the self-evaluations. That is to check the that is to check one's performance in the language learning. And then in the cognitive strategies, 11 there are 11 strategies. The first one is elaborating by connecting prior knowledge of language to the new information. And the second one is resourcing by making use of any reference to help one's learning process. And number three is repetition by repeating the word or the phrase that is being learned uh, to to be used to it and to understand it. Number four is grouping by classifying and ordering the information to make it more clear to understand. And number five is taking note. It is simply just taking note the information being learned. And number six is substitutions. It is by preparing the alternative plan. If the first strategies um, didn't useful, and then you can change the strategies to the plan B. Number seven is induction or reduction. Induction or reduction is about by applying Owen's rule in learning strategies. Induction means to edit some uh, rules in the strategies, and reduction means to reduce something in the strategies while learning. Number eight is summarizing. Summarizing means to writing down the summary and write the ideas in in the paper or maybe in the other media. Number nine is translating. Translating ideas. Translating means by translating ideas, word, sentence in almost verbatim manner. And number 10 is inference. Inference, it is by guessing the meaning by with the use of our prior linguistic knowledge. And then number 11 is transfer. It is making use the prior linguistic knowledge to do the language task. That's all of the 11 strategies or processes in the cognitive process. And then the third strategy is social strategy. There are four process or strategies stated here. The first one is cooperating. Cooperating means to learn with the partner, to get feedback, or even to model the language that is being learned. And number two is questioning to clarify. That is just like to ask more information about the language or maybe to ask just to verify or clarify something that you don't share with it. And number three is self-reinforcement. That is by giving a reward to the self by after doing something good, after after doing something good while learning in the learning. Number four is self-talk. It is to build up confidence. It is to build up it is to build up self-confidence in learning a language. Uh, we move to the previous research. There are five experts research that have been cited here. The first one is from City and Florida 2020. It is about language learning strategy for English language learner and polytechnics. And the second one is from Lester et al. 2020. Analysis of language learning strategies used by EFL student teacher at English language education program in Universitas Negeri Padang. Number three is from Iris and Gunawan 2023. That is an analysis of English learning strategy applied by the high achieving students during study from home. Number four is English learning strategies for vocabulary mastery. It is the more specific one. And it is written by Perry and Bambang 2020. And number five is from Dinda et al. 2019 about language learning strategy used by the students in learning English. That's all. And then we move to the conceptual framework. It is the conceptual framework. You have seen that. Can move to the next slide. The next slide is about the chapter three research method. In this research, the researcher choose descriptive quantitative research design to elaborate the research. And then for the population and sample, the students of SMN2 solo will be the populations, and the sample will be the excellent class, the 12, the excellent class of 12 grade students, that is the class of 12 F1. And for the technique, and for the sampling technique, the researcher select this. The researcher use the purpose of sampling as the researcher choose the excellent class that they are meet the researcher needs for the research. And for the validity of the research, the researcher adopt the language learning strategy questionnaire LLSP by Setiari 2016. So that there is no more validity needed to do. And then for the reliability test, the researcher is going to use the Cronbach alpha formula to test the reliability. And in collecting the data, the researcher firstly will distribute the papers of questionnaire to the students, and 30 minutes of time will be given to the student to fill the questionnaire. And then after collecting the data, the researcher will analyze the data. The data will be in the analysis of of data will in the two technique. The first one is the first one is for analyzing the interview data, and the second one is for analyzing the questionnaire data. In analyzing the interview data, the researcher will apply the Miles and Haberman technique, and for analyzing the data collected from the questionnaire, the researcher will use SPSS. And I think that's all from me. And if there is mistake, I'm really sorry for the mistakes. And thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.